My name is Aleksander Wierzejski and welcome to Poland Daily News. Jarosław Kaczyński, chairman of Poland's ruling party Law and Justice, or PiS, has presented a package of solutions aimed to quell farmers' anger caused by massive amounts of Ukrainian grain and other produce flooding the Polish market. The government has decided to issue a regulation that will ban imports of grain to Poland, but also of dozens of other types of food, said the leader of parliamentary majority. Farmers have held protests across the country complaining against the inability to sell their grain as storage space has already been taken by cheaper Ukrainian grain. The imports, which were originally planned to be sent further to the Middle East and Africa, ended up in Poland, depressing local prices. Similar problems have affected the agricultural products as well, including poultry and eggs. The conservative Law and Justice, or PiS, held a congress devoted to agriculture in the village of Łyse in northeastern Poland. A large-scale purchase of grain currently in storage will be carried out with a premium, so that the new price is at least 1,400 Polish zlotys per ton. Today, the government has decided to ban the import of grain and other food products from Ukraine. We have informed our Ukrainian friends about this. We are ready at any time, perhaps within the next few days, to settle this matter in the form of an intergovernmental agreement with Ukraine.
Powiadomiliśmy już naszych przyjaciół ukraińskich o tych decyzjach i jesteśmy gotowi w każdej chwili, być może to będą wręcz najbliższe dni, podjąć rozmowy, żeby tą sprawę załatwić w postaci porozumienia międzypaństwowego.
Ta deklaracja, którą złożył przed chwilą prezes Jarosław Kaczyński, jest wielkim sygnałem również, drodzy Państwo, dla Unii Europejskiej, bo Unia Europejska mówi piękne słowa, korytarze solidarnościowe i co dalej za tym? I zostają towary w naszym kraju, zostają towary w krajach frontowych. Dlatego chcemy dać sygnał do Unii Europejskiej, że muszą być narzędzia, które spowodują pomoc Ukrainie, ale pomoc realną, pomoc, która da rozłożyć towary rolne z Ukrainy na całą Europę. Koszty muszą ponieść tej pomocy cała Europa,
Trzeba wiedzieć Państwu, że jesteśmy w wielu naszych działaniach limitowani, ograniczani regulacjami europejskimi. Więc powiem to bardzo precyzyjnie. W najbliższych dniach zawnioskujemy ze specjalnym programem. Dokonamy notyfikacji, tak to się nazywa, do Komisji Europejskiej. I apeluję do Komisji Europejskiej o błyskawiczną, jak najszybszą zgodę, żebyśmy z naszego polskiego budżetu raz jeszcze mogli dopłacać 500 zł do nawozów, tak jak w zeszłym roku.
In his speech, Kaczyński vowed that the government will carry out a mass purchase of grain stored in silos and warehouses with subsidies that will raise the prices to at least 1,400 Polish zlotys per ton from today's prices of about 900 Polish zlotys per ton. The party leader went on to blame the European Union for the problem by saying that it was a result of decision made outside our country in the European Union as parts of its competence. The government has also decided to maintain the current subsidies to fertilizers, Kaczyński said. Poland introduced these subsidies last year as the prices of fertilizers spiked due to the soaring energy prices. It is obvious that fertilizers depend on gas, and the gas prices at the moment surged tenfold. Today is less, but it is still much more than before, Kaczyński said. In short, the subsidies will be maintained, he said. Kaczyński went on to say that the government will also ban imports of grains and other foods from Ukraine, despite being friends and allies of Ukraine, with no change here. Today, the government has decided to issue a regulation that will ban imports of grain to Poland, but also of dozens of other types of food, he said. The decision results from asymmetry between Polish and Ukrainian farming that is caused by the difference in the quality of soil, much lower cost of labor in Ukraine, and ultimately the fact that their farms are huge and operated by international companies with vast infrastructure, Kaczyński said. Given the asymmetry between the Polish and the Ukrainian farming, if everything came here without limits, this could spur a grave crisis of Polish farming, he said. We won't allow this, he added. The Law and Justice chairman also said that Poland was ready to sign a relevant grain imports deal with Ukraine. We have notified our Ukrainian friends about the decision and we're ready to start talks at any moment to deal with this issue as part of bilateral agreement, Kaczyński said. As a result of the war, Ukrainian grain production fell from around 45 million tons in 2021 to 38 million tons in 2022. But exports of the commodity depend on Russia's ability to block shipping in the Black Sea. To win concessions from the West, Moscow has resorted to blackmail, demanding, for example, that sanctions on one of its banks be lifted in exchange for allowing Ukrainian grain exports. We understand this is a problem, but I think there are other countries in the world that don't. Or don't they see and understand it? They should be helping us a little, because we are on our own. There are countries, the European Union, the United States, they should help us. Turkey said it would help, but we don't know whether it will. We think it will, but who knows? I can't say anything here. If other countries help us, everything is going to be good. That's what we think. However, we may think one thing, but things may turn out the other way.
Export of wheat, and in the top 3 for maize, barley and sunflower seeds. Production of wheat in 2021 was approximately 40 million tons, and another 50 million tons for the other 3 commodities. Before the conflict, Ukraine used to feed the world. Now they need help to feed themselves.
Moscow has set multiple demands for an extension, including that the Rossielhozorbank be reconnected to the SWIFT payment system and that restrictions affecting agricultural machinery parts are lifted. The Black Sea grain export deal was renewed for 60 days last month, but Russia has signaled it may not agree to extend it further unless the West removes obstacles to the export of Russian grain and fertilizer. The deal, which created a protected transit corridor to enable export to resume from 3 Ukrainian ports, has helped to tackle a global food crisis that UN officials said had been seriously exacerbated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
It's essential that we allow these ports to open, because this is not just about Ukraine. This is about the poorest of the poor around the world who are on the brink of starvation as we speak. So I asked President Putin, if you have any heart at all, to please open these ports.
Pressed into emergency service by the blockade of Ukraine's seaports by Russian invaders, neighboring Russia raced against time in May to move Ukrainian grain to global markets before the next harvest triggered bottlenecks. According to Polish Finance Minister Magdalena Rzeczkowska, Poland has spent 50 billion Polish zlotys, or about 10.67 billion euro, or about 2% of the country's GDP, on aid to Ukraine. The estimate was presented at a meeting at the Atlantic Council think tank in Washington, D.C. The total spending on Ukraine has amounted to up to 2% of our GDP, or 50 billion Polish zlotys. So it is indeed an important item in our budget, the finance minister said. On the other hand, Ukrainian refugees who have not had a major difficulties finding job in Poland have contributed to the country's budget with their taxes, Rzeczkowska observed. Of course, we would like them to return to Ukraine as quickly as possible, because it would mean that the war is over and Ukraine can grow. Commenting on the state of the Polish economy, the minister said that Russia's war in Ukraine was the main reason behind the current slowdown in the country's economic growth, and argued that the high level of inflation that Poland is suffering from has mostly been imported too. Canada has just completed its promised delivery of Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukrainian soldiers are learning how to operate this beast at the Armored Division training camp in Świętoszów in southwest Poland. The Canadian MBTs are being sent to Ukraine to join tanks sent earlier by Poland, Portugal, Spain and Germany. Footage released by NATO showed Ukrainian tanks operators driving Leopard tanks during their 30-day training on the vehicles to be used to fight Russia's invasion. The footage, shot earlier this month, showed that tanks driving and firing their main guns, as well as Ukrainians using simulators at the Leopard Training Center in Poland's Świętoszów. Captain Stefanowice, the deputy commander at that center, said Ukrainians taking the course were eager to learn everything they could about the vehicles, despite 12 hours.
So first start out with the theory in the classrooms. Then we go for the simulators with the basics like starting up the engine, some basic maneuvers, and then we proceed onto real tank, training on the tactical strip and introducing some tactics and how to act doing the live firing exercises and such. Even though the training is 12 hours a day, even at the end of the day, they still want to learn more, get some more experience, work a bit more around the tank. They have questions all the time because the stakes for them are very high. They want to know as much as they can once they get back to Ukraine.
We have 30 days to do this course, and typically this course runs for about 3 months in Canada, so it's definitely very condensed. However, the Ukrainians that are here have come from tank platforms already, the T-Series tanks, so they already come with that knowledge of gunnery, knowledge of mechanical systems, so it really ends up being more of a conversion course, just not necessarily teaching them how to be tankers, but teaching them how to use this particular tank.
Germany agreed in January to supply the tanks regarded as among the best in the West's arsenal, overcoming misgivings about sending heavy weaponry that Kyiv says is crucial to defeat Russia's invasion, but Moscow casts as a dangerous provocation. And that's the news for the night. A jeszcze raz. And that's the news for tonight. Jeszcze raz. And that's the news for tonight. Stay with us for more on Poland Daily this evening.